In drawing class, you often have this exercise where you draw without looking at the paper. I think the idea is to disconnect your right side from left side or something. And so you're just supposed to draw looking at your subject and keeping your hand on the paper. And so I kind of do a lot of that when I'm driving the Artaxi, because it's a little dangerous to not to look at the road. Well, the Artaxi is both art and taxi. So it's a conveyance, and typically it's a conveyance to art, or it's a conveyance away from art, or sometimes it's just a circling around art. Hello, where to?
315 Trinity.
315 Trinity, yes ma'am. The car sort of came to me. I didn't buy it. It belonged to my grandmother, who lived in New Jersey. And people who ride in it, even long prior to my thinking it could be a good art taxi, people described it as being taxi-like. So people, if they're not paying too close attention, I think they actually do believe it's an authentic taxi, which it isn't, and nor do I ask for money. The taxi is pretty obvious. It will drive you from place to place, take you from point to point. And the art part, well, that's a little less clear. There's some drawing and painting that happens, photography. You're probably not even in the frame, so.
That's okay. That's even better.
I like to keep it somewhat arbitrary. If I try to put it into words, it's always going to be somewhat less than the experience of it. It has a performance art element, I suppose. You know, in theory, I'm in some kind of character, but I'm not really too theatrical, to be honest with you. So this is why I have the keyboard, and there's some other instruments and things down there on the ground, and it all is kind of mixed into the main stereo. And I'm a big fan of improvisation and spontaneity. So most of the elements that come and feed into the Artaxi are different each time. The cabbie character is not well formed. I'm not, it seems like a lot of work already to me to drive, number one.
Evening. Let's see. I need to go downtown. I need to go like Peachtree and International.
And then do whatever things I'm doing with devices and cameras and such. And so to also have a character that I have to maintain is difficult. What kind of business are you in?
I'm an architect.
Driving the Artaxi is pretty stressful, I have to say.
And thought that I would take that Artaxi.
And that to me is part of the thrill of it, or part of the pleasure of it, is the spontaneous chaos that comes up. Whoa! Look out. And it really does focus you upon the road and what's going on around you. I'm even more cognizant of the other cars and the people on the streets, or for people who just seem to be standing on the corner needing art or a taxi or both.
I'm trying to conduct business. There's a drummer on the sidewalk. There's music going on.
It's going to be disappointing.
I think I'm going to have to call you back.
Everyone who's ridden a cab knows that the music is often terrible and arbitrary.
What?
And usually you have no control over it. So those are other elements that I would put into the cabbie, as a sort of solicitousness and a desire to help, but at the same time, someone who has their own ritual and has been doing it for hours of the day and is not going to adjust too much to please the passengers.
Could I get a receipt?
Sure. Here.
All right, thank you. I'll call.
6 p.m. We'll pick you up. I kind of see the Artaxi also as a small mobile communication hub for the art world in Atlanta. And so I like the idea of picking up some of those people and driving them around and having them talk with other people whom I might pick up. So the Artaxi kind of provides me a way to interact with the art world without really being a part of it, without taking anyone's money, but it also keeps me close to it. It's not really any different when I get into this car and do some Artaxi thing than if I am at home doing some music or doing some drawing. Whoa! I don't know if there's a big jump from that kind of activity to putting a sign on the roof and driving it around town. I find it a little awkward to explain sometimes, what it is or why I do it. To me, it's an experiential sort of thing. People ride in it, and then they know what it's like, and they know what it is, and maybe it provides them some additional pleasure. And certainly, it might give them a little more than they might normally get going from point A to point B.